Today I'm going to be talking about the Rotary Foundation. Rotary loves three-letter acronyms. It's also known as TRF. Do not confuse this, and I'll talk about some of the differences with this, and think of Steve Munt and our Broadstand and what we call the Madison South Rotary Foundation, which often we shorten to MSRF. I'm talking about the Rotary Foundation. And for many of you, you've heard talks about this every year in the past, but it's a good refresher to understand what's going on in the foundation, what it does, how the financials work, and I definitely will have plenty of time for questions at the end. So I'll go through this fairly quickly. Also, unlike many other times we've done talks about the Rotary Foundation, I'm not going to show you pictures of the need out there. This is not going to be pulling your heartstrings. Go ahead and feel free, always read the Rotarian magazine. That's probably half of it covers activities being done by people involved with help from the Rotary Foundation. So let's continue on. So what does the Rotary Foundation do? Okay, first, it has a major impact on local clubs. A lot of people think, and they even call it the Rotary International Foundation. And they think it's only international. No, a major part of the Rotary Foundation is what we do with local clubs through a program called district grants. And district grants, over the last 5 years, our district has given out grants to our district clubs over almost $310,000, 44 clubs and all that. Next year, there's actually going to be $100,000 that our district has to give to local clubs. In the past, Madison South has been a recipient of many, many, many grants. Some local or those in the Madison area have gone towards the Goodman Pool. If I recall, it was sort of teaching, help me, swim instructors or lifeguards. We got involved with the library expansion on Park Street, and we're constantly looking at other local grants. The projects that go to our club can also go internationally, of which primarily we've been involved with Lynn's and our projects in Guatemala. For those that have been in the club probably 6, 7 years or more, we had a district grant that financed my son's weird soccer ball malaria project in Togo, West Africa, and that was a district grant. By the way, folks, David stays involved with that. Those soccer balls are still bouncing around West Africa. Those indestructible soccer balls and the malaria nets made a major difference. So again, thanks for everybody there. That was a district grant to Madison South. The foundation also does a major impact through what we call global grants. And that goes across, as we'll get into what global grants do, but it goes through all these other countries, all these Rotarians, supporting projects that are done globally. I believe Lynn will be talking about a project we're looking at doing in Guatemala that will be applying for a global grant. And we'll share a little bit more later in my talk about how global grants, the matching is phenomenal, okay? So those are impacts globally. There's an interesting thing happening right now, though, that Rotary, through the Global Grant Fund, is making, so it's called some emergency COVID-19 grants. Our district got $25,000, and through a sort of a monkey survey, it went out to club presidents, and a bunch got back to us in our district that we have $25,000 that can go quickly to clubs that are trying to support projects that will help COVID-19. So an example would be, I believe there's a club, the Wanakee Club does a lot with their food pantry. So they're gonna get $800 or $1,000 that will go towards their food pantry. These are not kind of grants they're more check writing grants that normally are not allowed under the grant program that needs Rotarian involvement. But we have this emergency. So to let you know, Rotary, so this 25,000, our district, measure that out. I can't remember, I think it's something like 3.2 million is going around the world to immediately help COVID-19. So it's neat what Rotary immediately jumped on that. Another major impact, and I know we've heard from Randy and everybody knows our campaign for polio, and we probably will always have a little business meeting talking about how so close we are to polio, but it's a major impact and major dollars that the Rotary Foundation does to end polio. And if anything, right now, we're so close, hopefully the COVID-19 does not put us too far back, because we know it's probably tougher and tougher to get out to those areas in Afghanistan and Pakistan right now, or if other hotspots come up, what to do. Although one of the interesting things with polio, the whole aspect of us working with the Gates, working with World Health Organizations, and on the ground polio teams is the whole idea of how to shut down hotspots when they're detected. So I think a lot of what we've done with polio is going to be used to the coronavirus as we get more into testing and trying to discover hotspots. So we'll be looking for that, what happens. Okay, so how do we do all this? Let me hang on here. We do it a lot through matching. So our monies go in and they can get matched. Polio is probably the first biggest one. And I have up on the screen, because of the Gates Foundation, if we give $1 towards the polio campaign, Polio Plus is called, the Rotary Foundation then matches, and $2 by Gates. So our dollar actually generates $3, okay? And our club has done a great job of supporting the polio campaign, either through our tips, through the brat stand, and individual members. We have a number of individual members who also have been giving to polio. The main one that we take advantage of are these district grants, where monies that are given into the Rotary Foundation, then a club can apply up to $5,000 for a district grant for just each club, or if clubs team up, it can be $14,500. Third one is, and again, I'm talking about this fairly quickly, feel free to ask questions at the end. Global grants, the matchings are phenomenal, because the global grant kind of fund does some matches of districts, does matches of clubs, and by the time we get all done, it's often 7.5 times on the dollar is what we're trying to say there. So again, $1 donated that goes into a global grant can be matched up to 7.5. So the monies really come out to be a major amounts for limited amounts that a individual can give. So how does the math work? The math is pretty fascinating. Many of us work for charitable organizations, and we think about how we get donations and what foundations do. The Rotary Foundation funding is a fascinating creation that came up at the very beginning of it. So let's say you make a $2,000 donation back in 2015-16 Rotary year. That was Dave Warren's big Rotary year as district governor. That 2,000 gets invested for 3 years. And think about those last 3 years up until February or March for some pretty good returns. So out of that 2,000, the investment earnings can help pay for the administration, and the 2,000 itself gets split into 2 different funds. One called a district designated fund, we call it DDF, and the other is the World Fund. And then those monies then can be used to help match. So out of that 1,000 in the district designated fund, half of that, so out of that 2,500 is going to that matching I talked about a couple slides ago for district grants, and the other half is going to global, and then that whole 1,000 from the world is going into global. So that's eventually how we end up really on global grants doing a phenomenal match, but even on a district grant, it's like a dollar for dollar match. So if a club puts in $5,000 towards a district grant project, our district itself through this district designated fund, DDF, will match that 5,000. So it's a dollar for dollar. It's a really neat thing for 3 years. So that's how we get monies 3 years later, okay? Some of the other World Fund goes towards polio, goes through peace centers, go through what's called ambassadorial scholars, goes through Peace Scholars, and we'll probably have a program from Lynn. We'll see where she's involved with the Peace Scholar program. So again, there's three major funds in the Rotary Foundation. The annual fund, that was the prior slide where that 2,000 gets allocated between district and global. Monies that you can just make directly to polio. And then those that are interested, we also have an endowment fund where the earnings can be invested, which the monies are there through perpetuity. So those are the three funds. The main one we often talk about are the annual fund, and then separately the Polio Plus fund or account. Okay. Rotary Foundation, when we talk about grants given out, is on the global grant side, we often talk about what is it going towards. And this chart here talks about water, education, disease, economic, peace, mothers and children's. And you can see that through the annual report. You can always go to rotary.org and bring up the annual report. The Rotary is very good on transparency. You can pull up the Rotary report and the foundation report. Those are two separate reports. But when we talk about grants and projects, we're always looking at these, what we call areas of focus: water, sanitation, education, mothers and children, economic, and disease prevention. What I'm very, very proud of, again, I've been involved with many different charitable organizations serving on boards. And the Rotary Foundation, when you look at what monies go towards the actual programs, right now it's at 91%. And if you work with in charitable organizations, if you can keep your what's called overhead, that is admin and fundraising, under 25%, so that 75% can go to program, you're normally very happy. Unfortunately, there's many, many, many charities out there. If you dig down into the financials, you'll see that less than half of your donations actually go to program expenses. I'm involved in various cancer organizations, and unfortunately, when you look at often these walks or walkathons or different cancer or charitable type of events, by the time they pay their costs, their program expenses, again, if they're lucky, is half. So thus, if you go to an organization called Charity Navigator, they rank them. We are one of the top, we the Rotary Foundation, in the upper right of a 4-star Charity Navigator ranking. And a little aside, a number of years ago when Mary and I retired, and we even talked about, okay, what type of charity do we want to work for? Well, our kids were out in Seattle. So we go, maybe we'll volunteer for the Gates Foundation. So I got a hold of the Gates Foundation, and they were very kind and said, no, 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 we appreciate having volunteers, but no, we just have employees that work through the Gates Foundation. But let me suggest 2 foundations that we think are really, really good, manage the money very well, and do phenomenal stuff in the world. And one of the 2 was the Rotary Foundation. They recommended to us to get involved with. So it's just a little aside on that, people know about the Rotary Foundation, and your monies are really being spent. It's just not going down a dark hole into Evanston, and I can't say that enough because I'm so involved with it. I can attest to it. So what can you do? Now that I've pulled your heartstrings kind of here, give, 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 give. I know everything's tough right now. And if anything, all of us are looking at what charities can we give to. And I always tell people, I just want to always be part of your charitable giving, okay? When you go through your list of what things, and again, we all joined Rotary because we want to make a difference in the world. Here's one of the best ways to do it is to give to the Rotary Foundation. There's a lot of different ways to do it. The easiest is just going to my Rotary through rotary.org. It's your account with Rotary, and you can give direct. You can work with Carrie Grunder and get it as part of your quarterly billing. And then you can just give Carrie a check. It's a requirement for us to get our district grants every year that we have what's called a $100 per member fund requirement. Fortunately, we do have a number of our members that give way more than 100. They give thousands of dollars to the Rotary Foundation annual fund every year. So our club easily makes this $100. Ideally, we'd love to have every member in our club give at least $100, $25 a quarter. Okay. Some clubs even take it out of your dues automatically. Some clubs make it a requirement for new members. We're just asking people that here's a way for you to make a difference. You're Rotarians. Much of the monies are used not just for Rotarians around the world, but Rotarians in our district. And much of the money comes back right to Madison South because almost every year we apply for grants. So we need the monies. The monies you give this year will be spent 3 years from now. Okay, so that's what I have on that. So another couple ways to get involved. We have 100,000. It's one of our biggest years to have grants. So I've actually been working with Steve Bunt trying to look at some of the projects that we support. Is there a project that we can write a grant for so that when we have a charity that's approached the Madison South Rotary Foundation for, let's say, $2,000, hey, can we write a grant and actually get another $2,000 from our district designated fund? So we're talking about ways that maybe we could write a grant that way. Lynn is looking at different grants, whether district or global grants. And can we collaborate with other clubs? But the other thing, excuse me, I have my helper here. I know everybody said that part of the job is walking on the keyboard. Okay, down cat. Okay. I'm very proud that our club, as you look at the committee structure, is very involved with the Rotary Foundation. If you look at Polio Plus on the bottom, Randy is the head of that subcommittee. Lynn works with scholars, okay, subcommittee. And I've been fortunate, I have a real fun job. Let's see, there we go, get the screen. Okay, if you can read it, I'm the Foundation Grants Treasurer. So I have the pleasure of serving on the district grant committee, been involved for probably 7 years doing this, reviewing grants and their eligibility. So a little aside, I can't vote on our grants, but I have some influence to make sure our grants get approved if we write them properly. But I have the pleasure, I get to write the checks out to clubs. So not just do I ask for money from clubs, but when the grants are approved, I get to write the checks out, and often we'll even go to club meetings and hand out the checks. So that's a lot of fun. So our club has been very involved with, especially Lynn, Randy, and myself, involved in the Rotary Foundation there. So this is what it's all about. There's your heartstrings.